Hi everyone, welcome to my talk. So my work in progress is creating a corpus of Navajo narratives. So what is a corpus? So it's basically a digital repository of text of one language, and one can analyze it. It contains lexical and grammatical information of sentences, word level or morpheme level annotation, and it contains, because of all that information, a grammatical sketch and a lexicon, allows empirical research on language use. Corpora usually exists for the bigger languages like French or English. The only thing is that a language needs a lot of text, and so languages that have written history are more benefit from the possibility to create a corpus. So as for Navajo, there is no corpus available for the public, and my project is to create one. And so where I'm currently at is at 7,000 words of 7 narratives, so 7 texts of Navajo, and I include different levels of annotations. So word level, for example, here about it, and then you go about searching. That's how I gloss the whole word. But then we go more fine-grained, where we see the morphemes. So "be" means third-person possessive, and then "about," and you see all that inside the verb. So I would like to build a corpus that has a very fine-grained level, but also a coarse-grained level of annotation. So the narratives that I'm using are all from the 50s. They're public domain in the United States, and they have been recorded first by native speakers and then written down by and transcribed by Young and Morgan in the 50s, two famous Navajo scholars. They relate to quotidian life, real events, many topics. Unlike the back in the time, back in the day, the Indian life readers were distributed across many reservations that just resembled the white culture. But then these narratives represent a novelty because they depict the life how it really was. So it's like also has a historical value in it. So what I did is to gloss first 3 versions of this story, the Trouble at Round Rock, which was a real event, and narrated by these 3 different authors: left-handed Mexican classman, Howard Gorman, and nephew of former big man. And then I looked at a bigger book full of narratives, which is the Navajo Historical Selections. So I wanted to just, I could close all of them, but it takes really time. So I choose from the different topics. For example, the first mother-in-law, that's like a more mythological story. Then a childhood tale, that's like a very personal story about growing up in the reservation. And then I Flew Over Navajo Land, that just relates to the historical event of the blizzard of 1949, where 2 Navajo aviators just flew with a plane over the land and distributed food. So it's very interesting to have all these words for flying also in the corpus. I used Fieldworks Language Explorer, which is like a tool to gloss a text. And then the good thing is that the more information you feed into this tool, the more it auto-completes. So if I go here and I have this morpheme, then I can click here and then see all the suggestions it tells me. And so it could be a perfective dysmorpheme or an imperfective morpheme, and so I can choose the right thing. So by fueling the data into this program, it also creates a lexicon and a grammar, and that's good. So because I'm only left with words that I haven't glossed. I use a digital version of the dictionary, which has been published in the 90s, so it hasn't really been much updated, but there's still the paper book. So you have to download a plug-in to run this CD, but it's better than just to go page to page in the dictionary. It contains also some conjugation tables and so on, but then I also use another resource because I'm not a native speaker and now it's really complex. Root-based dictionary where you find the root and then the conjugations and then the prefixes that come with it. I also am very glad to have the support of Professor Meredith Chi, who's a native speaker, and we meet every week to discuss some of the more challenging words that I have not found in the dictionary. And sometimes it's like we're both clueless. What is this word? Is it still being spoken like that? And so we have to really dig also back into the dictionary because also it's not easy even for native speakers to know what exactly the morpheme means and so on, how to gloss it. So then we come to the challenges. So one challenge is that the digitalization and Native American language, that's always a challenge. There's not even many resources, but Navajo has more than other languages. So, and then there's a lack of uniformity because what's specific to Navajo is like how do we gloss the words. So some linguists say, oh, it's like an agglutinative language. Others say it's a fusional language. And so do we put this morpheme and this morpheme together or do we separate it? So how fine-grained, how structuralist does it have to be, right? And then who will have more interest, like more formal linguists or usage-based linguists. So while Flex is a useful tool, it can be accessed only through Windows. That's another drawback. I wish to make it, I intend to make it more accessible to have a domain, web domain where it can be easily downloaded or accessed without downloaded. But as it is now, it's only uploaded to a language depot, and then the person who wants to access it has to download the program also, and it only runs on Windows. And then there's the problem that there is not much text in Navajo, so at one time it's going to be no more text to gloss, but until then I still have a lot to do. And then obviously very important, we need to train native speakers for annotation and contribute to a growing corpus, because I don't know how long I will be doing this project. So it's very important to have for it to be more accessible. And what I said, a very Navajo specific challenge is that it is every verb has its own conjugation, and sometimes one does not really know which morpheme belongs to which verb. So one has to always go back to Latvia and really time intensive because of the complexity that Navajo poses. And then we have prospects. So the narratives are open source. Everyone can download them free of copyright. So that's why historical narratives, for contemporary narratives, one has to always seek permission. It allows better access to Navajo literature and language and more empirical research, obviously, like frequency, how often does this morpheme come up? And then further down, it can be also used for further computational purposes like semantic annotation and so on. And then there's educational advantages. So one can just use the corpus to build example, to just search for one specific morpheme or which other words can this morpheme occur in, right? So it should be also a benefit for teachers. And because they can look for the literal translation or the like more figurative translation. And then the most important thing, it should be freely accessible through Language Depot. As it stands now, one has to really download the program and so on, but I'm working to make it more accessible, maybe even like a web version when one does not really have to download it. And this concludes my talk. And thank you very much. And please ask me some question at the poster session. I would be very happy to do so, to answer it. Thank you.